In this video, let's see many different Excel shortcut keys that can help us on a daily basis to either save time or to automate tasks. Let's start with the first shortcut key, where we can use the Control key coupled with the arrow keys. And then we can see Control key plus Shift key plus arrow keys. But let's start with the first one, Control plus the arrow keys. Let's say I have a data set. Let's use this blue one right here. I have many different rows and 4 different columns. Let's say I want to go to the last row that I have. I can either use the scroll in my mouse to go down, or I can use the arrow keys to move down cell by cell, as we can notice right here. However, it's going to take a long time to move to the last row. So what I can do is I can use the Control with the arrow keys to navigate throughout the entire workbook or within a data set, a table that I have. So let's take a look right here. Let's say I want to select this cell right here. And then I want to move all the way to the right. Instead of manually do it with the cursor, clicking the cell like I'm doing here, or using the arrow keys to move 1, 2, 3, 4 times to the right, I can use Control plus the arrow keys. Simple as that, okay? So Control to the left, Control to the right. I can navigate all the way to the right or all the way to the left. But let's say now we already know that we can navigate within the data set, within a table in Excel. But let's say you want to navigate throughout the workbook. How can I go to the last column? You can press again, Control to the right. Now you are in the last column of Excel. And if you press again, Control to the left, you're going to go back to the table. Control to the left again. Now we are in the first column of the second table. And if I want to move up, Control up. And as we can notice, the selection is just right here. If I press Control up again, I'm going to go to this cell right here. Excel is going to jump to the cell, Control up, okay, as we can see right here. And again, Control up. Now I'm in the first cell of the first column and the first row. Let's press now Control down again, and one more time, Control down. Okay, now I'm in the last row of my data set. And as we can see here, roughly 4,000 rows. So yeah, it could take a long time to be here using the arrows or using the mouse scrolling down throughout the rows. So this is why it's very important to know how to use Control plus the arrow keys. But another way that we can navigate throughout the spreadsheet or the workbook or throughout a data set or a table is using, coupled with the Control and the arrow keys, the Shift key. The Shift key is going to select everything that we have. So let's say I'm in this cell right here, or I have a small selection like this. The entire first column is selected, and I want to move the selection to the right. How can I do it? I can use, of course, the Shift and the arrow key to the right, one more time, simple as that. And if I want to undo this action, I can do the opposite, Shift to the left, to the left. Okay, but let's say I want to jump all the way to the right, selecting everything that I have within this data set. I can use Control, Shift to the right, simple as that. And if I want to undo this action, Control, Shift to the left. Let's say now, let's do something more complicated. Let me click here in the first cell that I have, and I want to select the entire header. So I can go Control, Shift to the right. Simple as that. And if I'm here in the, let's say, in the shipment column, I want to again select the entire header. So what I can do is I can move to the left, and then I can select everything. So Control to the left, okay, or Control to the right, doesn't matter. Now that I'm to the left, I can use Control, Shift to the right to select everything. And if I want to select the entire data set, I can go Control, Shift down. Simple as that. But let's say I just want to keep up with the quantity column. So I can move the selection above the quantity and then Control, Shift down. Simple as that. And if I want to select the shipment, Control, Shift down. If I want to select here the total price, I can move the selection above the total price, Control, Shift down. Simple as that. So this is how we can use Control with arrow keys and also Control with Shift keys. And we did also see here how to use Shift with the arrow keys. So now let's move on to a more concrete example instead of doing abstract things. Let's say I want to add up all the total prices that I have, all those values. I want to make an addition. So what I can do is equal sign, sum function, double click 1, 2, and then I can select the entire range where I want to add up the numbers. Well, let's say, as we notice, I use the cursor of the mouse to click, hold, and drag down to make the range that I want to adapt. Let's hit enter here. Okay, I'm gonna have the correct result. But I can also do it faster, and I'm gonna show you in a moment. Let's now do the average. Equal sign, average. Let's select here, 1, 2. And the average price is gonna be again the same range. But let's say this range right here is very large, and I don't want to expend too much time selecting the range. So what I can do is maybe click over the letter D to select the entire column. Should I do it? I don't know. Well, let's check right here. If I select this entire column, what is going to happen is both of the data sets are going to be selected. Maybe it's not correct because I don't want to use the second data set into my calculation. So what I can do here is I can click over the total price cell, and then again I can use the shortcut keys to help me. Control Shift down like this, simple as that. So everything now is selected, and if I want to do again the selection, I can use the arrow keys to move the selection. And as we can notice, the selection of the cell, the coordinates are within the function. So let's move again to the total price here, and then Control Shift down, simple as that. And if you also want to use, instead of Control with the Shift, you can only use, let's say, Shift with the arrow keys. So Shift down, Shift down, Shift down. That way you can move the selection down one by one cell. But I think it's faster to use Control Shift down to select everything and then enter. Okay. That way it's clear that we can also use those shortcut keys with functions and formulas in Excel to select an entire range. Now let's move on to a second shortcut key, that is Control Space and Shift Space. If you press Control Space, what is going to happen is you can select an entire column. And if you use Shift Space, what is going to happen is the entire row is going to be selected. And if you coupled Control Space and then Shift Space, you are going to select eventually your entire workbook. Now everything is selected, all the columns and all the rows. This is very interesting to know because let's say you want to select for some reason this entire column B or the entire column C or D or A. You can either use Control Shift down, as we did learn before, or you can actually use Control Space. Or let's say to select an entire row, you can click Control Shift to the right or Shift Space to select everything. Both of those shortcut keys can help you. But why Control Space and Shift Space are important? Because I already know how to use Control, Shift, arrow keys, or Control and arrow keys. Because I'm going to show you here. Let's say I want to know the total sold. Equal sign, some function again, double click, 1, 2. And now instead of select everything manually or using Control Shift down, because of course it's gonna work, I don't want to do any of those. I don't want to use any of those shortcut keys. I can use equal sign, some function, and click in the column that I want to select the entire column, and then Control Space. Simple as that. It's much easier. And then enter. So let me increase the width of this column, and okay, this is the result. And if I want to do the average margin, equal sign, average, double click, 1, 2, and again, now I can select the column D. So I click within the column D, Control Space, and then I can hit enter. Simple as that. I can use all those different shortcut keys within any function or formula that I have. I can even use a lookup function to retrieve the sales result using as criteria a week. So anyway, let's move on now to a different shortcut key that can be coupled with the Control Space and the Shift Space. As we can see right here, this report has many blank rows, and I want to get rid of this blank data because I don't want to use a blank row within my report, within my data set. So what I can do here is, let's say I can select all the blank spaces. And how can I do it? There's many different ways to select a blank space in Excel. But let's start with what we already know. Let's click in the first cell and then Control down to move to the last cell before the blank cell, and then one more down. Okay. Now we can use Shift Space to select the entire row, and then we can use Control minus to get rid of a cell, a range, like we have here, a range, the entire row, or we can use the Control plus sign to add a cell, to add a range, or to add a column or a row. So let's use for now the Control minus to get rid of this blank space. Control minus. Okay, one more time. Control minus. Yeah, there's no more blank space within this range. Now let's move on to the next blank space. Control down, down again, Shift Space, Control minus. Okay, simple as that. But let's say now I want to add some rows. because I need to add some informations in the January 5th, let's say. So I need to input the information just right here. What I can do is I can select just this cell right here and then shift space to select the entire row. And then because the entire row, that is a range, is selected, and I want to add this exactly range again, but with blank cells, I can use Ctrl plus. Okay, simple as that. And if I press again, Ctrl plus, I can continue to keep adding blank spaces. And if I use Ctrl minus, I can get rid of those blank spaces. The same can be applied to columns. So if I want to add a column in between B and C, I can select the column C and then Ctrl plus. Okay, many different columns are being added here. Let's use now Ctrl minus. Okay, so this is how we can add and get rid of columns, rows, cells, and ranges. And of course, if you want to, let's say, just move this range here down like this, let's say, you can select the cells like this. If you press Ctrl plus in a situation like this, Excel doesn't know if he needs to move the selection or moves the information to the right, to up, down, or to the left. So what's going to happen is you're going to have this little board right here to tell Excel what you need to do. Shift cells to the right, down, entire row, or entire column. So let's say I want to shift cells down. Let's select the second option and then OK. And as we can notice here, everything that was underneath my selection was moved down. Let's now undo this action, or we can select everything here again, the range, and then Ctrl minus. And I want to shift cells up again. Okay, yeah, simple as that. This is how we can use both of those shortcut keys in Excel. There's another shortcut key in Excel that is very useful. That is the Ctrl-Shift-L. The Ctrl-Shift-L can add filters in a table into a dataset. And I can even use the filters to help me to filter the blank spaces. So we're going to do it. But before we do it, let's learn here how to add filters. I can click anywhere within my dataset and then Ctrl-Shift-L. And as we can notice, now I have those little squares with the headers. Those are the filters. And if I click in any of those filters, I can use this tool to filter the information that I need to see. And if you want to get rid of the filters, you can use Ctrl-Shift-L again. Ctrl-Shift-L, Ctrl-Shift-L to enable or to disable the filters. Let's now go back to the previous example. And here, now I want to select all the blank spaces that I have. So let's say, first of all, I need to select the entire data set to apply the filters, because if I apply the filters in this data set that I have, because there is a space separating the first data set to the second one, the filters are going to be applied only to this first portion of the data set. So I don't want to do it. I want to apply the filters to filter the entire data set that I have, even though there is blank spaces. So let's go to the first column right here, and then Ctrl space to select the entire column, and then I can use Ctrl Shift to the right to select everything. Now, with this range that I selected, I want to apply filters. So let's go and Ctrl Shift L. Now I have the filters. Now let's filter anything but the blank spaces. So let me go here and then click in, let's say, date. Let's go down, and I want to uncheck all the checkboxes and just mark the blanks. And then I can click OK. And as we can notice, all those bluish numbers are being filtered for me. Let's click in the second cell that I have, and then shift the space to select everything. Now we can move down, shift down, or just click and hold down the down arrow. Now if I press Ctrl minus, I can get rid of all those blank spaces. Let's take a look here. I want to click in the first cell again and Ctrl Shift L to get rid of the filters. And there is no more blank spaces. This is how we can couple many different shortcut keys in Excel to help us save time and also to automate tasks. Now let's move on to another shortcut key, that is Ctrl D. Ctrl D create a table in Excel. As we can notice, this is just a simple data set. It's not a table. But if I press Ctrl D, I can open this panel, and yeah, my table has headers. Let's click OK. Now it's a table in Excel. Now another shortcut key that we have is the Alt equal. The Alt equal can add up values automatically. Let's take an example right here. I have an inventory list with many different items, the quantity, the unit cost, and the total cost. I want to know what is the total quantity that I have in my inventory that I received. So I can go here and in this cell and equal sign, sum function, double click, click in this cell right here, Control Shift Up to select the entire range and then enter. Okay, this is a way that I can do this addition. However, there is a much faster way. Equal sign, or even we don't need to use the equal sign. Just click in the cell where you want to adapt a range. It can be a vertical range or it can be a horizontal range. But for now, let's use a vertical range. And then Alt equal. The sum function is done. Let's hit enter and that's it. Let's do again to the total cost. I want to know what is the total value cost that I have in my inventory. Go to the last cell to vertically adapt the values and then Alt equal. The sum function is done. Hit enter and that's it. This is the total. We can use the Alt equal again, however, this time to values that are into a horizontal position. I have a school report card with many different students and all the tests 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I need to calculate the final grade. The final grade is not an average, it's just an addition of those values because the Alt equal is not going to do an average, it's going to do a sum function, right? So Alt equal and then enter. Alt equal and then enter. But wait a minute, I don't want to expand the whole day right here doing Alt equal to all the rows that I have. Of course, I could click in the cell at the bottom right corner, click, hold, and drag down to make the same function, copy and paste down to all the rows. However, a much faster way is I can select this entire range right here, like this, and then I can use Alt equal, simple as that. Now all the cells that I have within the final grade are going to calculate the addition of the values to the left horizontally. This is how we can use the Alt equal to save time in Excel and to adapt values. Another shortcut key that we have is the Alt enter. The Alt enter can be used with, let's say, formulas, functions, and also with texts. You want to create a header, and your header is going to be monthly payment. But you don't want to use this sentence in the same line or in the same row. You want to break and use monthly in the line above and payment in the line underneath. You can do the following thing. Let me get rid of this space and then I can use Alt Enter to split, to separate, to break the lines in between those words. Let me hit Enter. As we can notice, now I have monthly in one line and payment in another line. I can do it with everything. If you need to use more lines, break into more parts, you can do so. So let's say 1, Alt Enter, 2, Alt Enter, 3, Alt Enter, 4. 4 different lines, Enter. If you want to do the same thing with formulas and functions, you can also do it. So let's say I have here a couple of different names with some random values. Okay, and I want to do here a lookup function to look up for the value that I input here above. Equal sign X lookup function, double click, 1, 2. The lookup value is going to be B and then comma. I don't want to input all the informations in the same line because let's say I want to do something that can be more easy to understand. So Alt Enter to break the function into another line. And the lookup array is going to be C7 to C9, comma, and the return array, let me break another line right here. Alt Enter is going to be D7 to D9, and then close parentheses. Let me hit Enter. This, as we can notice, is much more easy to understand. Let's say you are learning how to use a formula or a function, or you just want to separate the arguments of a function into new lines. You can do so. Let me hit Enter. Okay, 8. B is equal to 8. Yeah, of course. And if I switch to C2, and if I change to A5, okay, it's working. And if I double click again, 1, 2, as we can notice, the function is going to remain the way we let the function. Now let's move on to a different shortcut key, that is the Control A. As we did learn before, we can use Control with the arrow keys or Control Shift and the arrow keys to move around the spreadsheet, the dataset, the workbook. However, if you want to select an entire dataset faster, you can use Control A to do so. instead of using Control Shift down and Control Shift to the right. For sure, of course it's fast. However, a faster way is Control A. And even though the dataset has some blank spaces, as we can notice right here, if I click into a blank space and then Control A, the entire dataset is going to be selected again. It doesn't matter, okay? So Control A can select the entire dataset that you have. And another cool, interesting thing with the Control A is, let's say you insert here some forms, shapes, pictures, it doesn't matter. Let's say I want to input here a rectangle, and also I want to add a arrow, and I have here a different rectangle like this. Okay, now I have three different shapes, or I could also have images, icons, and so forth, charts, and all those good stuffs. Let's say I want to select all those shapes, forms, images, all at once. What I can do is I can select only one shape, chart, image, and then if I press Control A, everything is going to be selected. And the Control A in this example right here is only going to select the shapes that you have. It's not going to select the dataset anymore, because you specify to Excel when you click in a shape, in an image, in a chart, that you only want to keep up with those type of elements, right? Control A. Now let's move on to a different shortcut key, that is the Alt F1. Let's say every single day or every week, every other day, you need to create charts in Excel. I have three different data sets: January, February, and March, for the products and the quantity sold for each one of those products. I need to create a column chart. How can I do it? I can select the entire data set, or like we did learn before, Control A, insert, column chart, select the chart, and yeah, that's it. It's not that difficult to create a chart. But as I said, you need to do it all over again. So a faster way to create a chart in Excel, you can simply click into the data set that you have, and then you can press Alt F1. And now you have a chart. Let's move on to the second data set, Alt F1. I have another chart, and the third one, Alt F1 again. I have the third chart. And finally, Control E, or Flash Fill. This is one of my favorite shortcut keys here in Excel. Because let's say that in the first example, I have a list with the new employees, and I need to create an email address, or the name of the email address. And then I need to give to all those employees the name of their emails. So let's start with the first one, math. But imagine if I need to create one single email to all those new employees that I have. I'm gonna be here the entire day to complete this task. So what I can do is I can do the first one, let's say math, and then M, that stands for his surname, and at mail.com, enter. Okay, the first one is done, but I don't want to do it all over again. So what I can do is I can press here Control E, and I'm done. Excel created a sequence for me, because as we can notice, there is a logic behind this first email. I'm using everything a lowercase name to the first employee that I have, and I'm separating the name to the surname with a dot, or with a period, okay? And then I'm using at mail.com. So Excel understands this sequence, this logic, and cope down to all the different names that I have. And maybe you can find some issues, such as this employee right here. Evans is the surname. However, look here, .s is not correct. So what I can do is I can try to find the first place where I have the issue. Like here, for example, instead of using K, it's using C, because maybe Excel understands that the first M is not for the surname. However, it stands for the name itself. But there is no problem. We can go here to where we find the arrow, and we can do it again. So 1, 2, to open this sequence. And instead of using C, I can use K, and then I can hit enter. Now Excel is going to adjust the entire list for me. And now everything is working fine, like we can see here, perfectly. Now let's move on to a second example, again with the Control E. Now I have many different items that are all banded together information-wise. So I have the item, trauma, the color, trauma, the size, trauma, the quantity in stock. But I don't want to keep up all those informations together in the same cell. I want to separate the informations. So what we can do is, let's first extract the size. In the size I have right here, medium. So let's type in here median, that is, it stands for the size, and then Control E. Yeah, that's it. Now Excel understand that this specific text right here stands for the size. And even though there is size with just one single word, such as median, and I also have sizes with two different words, one size, Excel understands the task. Now let's go to the quantity. The quantity is the last number. So 5, enter, Control E. Simple as that. And even though the number has just one single digit or 2 digits, it's gonna work. Let's go now to the color. Red, and then blue, and so forth, Control E, and yeah, that's it. And again, if you find something that is not correct, you can go to the first cell where you find this arrow. You can change to the correct one, and you can press enter, and Excel is gonna correct the entire sequence again, following the logic. So this is how we can use all those different shortcut keys in Excel that can help us a lot on a daily basis to save time and to automate tasks. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and of course, if you have any questions or any suggestions to the next videos, let me know, comment down below, and I see you tomorrow. As every day has a new video, I see you there.